A temporary setback. I am not done with you yet.
I do not know who you are, but my strength is yours to command.
As Shiny Entertainment's last homegrown IP, Sacrifice circles the odd depths of the imagination, placing you in a war-torn world of gods and demons. A hybrid of third-person action game and real-time strategy, you carve your own path serving a desired god and battling wizards with an army of wonderfully demented creatures. It was highly praised on release, and many still call for a sequel. But was the sacrifice of Shiny Entertainment worth it?
Remaining on the defensive is a recipe for failure. Having won Stratos as an ally, at least for the time being, there can be no course but to strike Pyro and strike quickly.
You play as the wizard Eldred, an aspirational wanderer and empirical leader with a sinister past. Joined by his guide imp Zizix, the skilled summoner searches the stagnant battlegrounds of Stygia to find the blind seer Mithras. Whilst they make their exit from the desolate landscape, Eldred recounts his part in these bleak circumstances to Mithras. The player begins to shape his tale with their choice of allegiance to any of the 5 gods. Trying to escape his past, Eldred acts as a pawn for one of these gods, completing assigned tasks to ultimately gain a new homeland.
Pyro will be in need of an ally, and I could use a pawn. Of course, if I know Pyro, he will require a little convincing, but that is accomplished easily enough.
The main campaign spans 10 missions where you choose a god to serve and complete a series of objectives. The mission often pits the player against an opposing wizard who is defeated by desecrating their altar. The player must take control of the battlefield by summoning an army of creatures allied to the god you serve. This requires mana and souls. Mana can be harvested from the player's altar or mana leaves, while souls are collected from fallen creatures or converted from enemy units. The player also has an arsenal of spells at their disposal, from conventional heal and speed up to the more devastating erupt. As well as the primary campaign, the game also features custom battles and a host of multiplayer modes, with a roster of playable wizards featured in the campaign.
You are low on mana.
Sacrifice is a truly original game that isn't restrained by genre conventions. It blends an RPG player-driven narrative with RTS tactics and third-person action, standalone as a bespoke, engrossing experience. After a series of concise tutorials, the player is challenged from Decision 1. A unique tactical approach to each battle is essential, analysing your opposition's army to create units that effectively counter and overpower them. Although the difficulty from the offset is perhaps off-putting to some, it is rewarding to finally defeat and destroy an enemy's altar after refining your army.
Ah, Toldor, now there's an old fellow. I heard that he is almost as old as the gods themselves. Things must be very serious for Persephone to lend us his aid.
Although the game was made 15 years ago, it still maintains an epic scale, with your army of fully commandable units dominating the landscape. With massive battles taking place and a host of animated spells to cast, the game never suffers any kind of lag or delay. As you progress, and with each allegiance you make, you accumulate a range of creatures and spells that reflect the gods you serve. This makes each playthrough interesting, with new objectives to face and abilities to experiment with. The overall presentation of the game is visually spectacular, and the music and sound design serve to enhance the player's engrossment. The sweeping primal orchestral score reflects the natural greenery of Persephone's Elysium, whilst the sinister industrial chants of Pyro reflects the bleak fiery pits of Pyroborea. The characters are fully personified and feature the voice acting talents of the likes of Tim Curry and Brad Garrett, who elevate the narrative as the gods try to make the player sympathetic to their causes.
3 of the infernal creatures have gathered here. You must hunt them down, lest they win passage to our enemies.
Although multiple player choices was a bold new idea, it doesn't quite pan out across the majority of the game. Once you've allied yourself with a god multiple times, the player is stuck to serve that one god for the remainder of the game. This makes the mechanic fairly redundant, but ensures that the player can achieve a different play experience by serving each god individually. The game lends itself well to multiple approaches, however there is little deviation from the objective of desecrating an opposing wizard's altar. This core mode is highly enjoyable, but it would be interesting to tackle more varied objectives and opponents. The world is host to a range of weird and wonderful creatures and artifacts which could be more of a feature of the gameplay.
We must force Pyro to overplay his hand before he becomes too powerful. Are you willing to take on the responsibility of defending Surta's keep?
Sacrifice was groundbreaking and demonstrated Interplay's passion for crafting original worlds and game mechanics. Its polished design and storytelling still impress today, and a true sequel would surely astound again. Although the player's choices may not have been as impactful as perhaps originally showcased, multiple endings and unique player-developed arsenals are effective mechanics that have been replicated in modern games and not always to the same standard.
Much of our forces must we dedicate in opposition to Pyro's imminent offensive, but we believe penetration of Magmar's defenses will expose Pyroborea to further attack and give Pyro pause.
Shiny's last soiree into the dark pits of fantasy gaming produced one of PC's most celebrated experiences. Although not without its flaws, Sacrifice stood and still stands as a pinnacle of creative design and story, and is one of the most engrossing and enjoyable strategy action games made. A return to the ethereal realm will not disappoint, and for those uninitiated, it's an unmissable journey.
What is your purpose here?
I have no quarrel with you. 3 Hellmouths have here gathered, and I mean to slay them.
I will not allow such a slaughter.
Resist me or no, the demons will not survive this day.